When it comes to body-on-frame vehicles, Toyota has been on a mission to completely re-engineer their trucks and truck-style SUVs. It started out, of course, with an all-new version of the Toyota Tundra. The company followed it up with a new version of the Sequoia because remember, the two vehicles share a same architecture, and they've been doing extremely well for Toyota ever since they came onto the marketplace. The company then followed it up with an all-new version of the Tacoma, the best-selling mid-size truck here in America. And then, of course, they also reintroduced a legendary nameplate, the all-new Land Cruiser, which is hybrid only. We'll be driving this vehicle sometime later this week. However, today we're actually out here in San Diego on the border of California and Mexico, essentially, to take a look at the final chapter of their light truck story. This right here is the brand spanking new 2025 Toyota 4Runner. It's a complete redesign. We're talking about an all-new frame, two all-new powertrains, including a hybrid option, and a modern interior with a massive 14-inch touchscreen available on the higher trim. So now that we're finally here seeing the new 4Runner in person, let's go ahead and take a detailed first look. Now, before we start talking about the all-new design of the new 4Runner, this is a comprehensive redo, so I thought I'd pop the hood and talk about the powertrain offerings. Because if you guys remember the current generation, the 5th generation 4Runner, it was literally the oldest, one of the oldest new vehicles that you can buy, right down to its archaic 4-liter naturally aspirated V6. Sad to report, that V6 engine is gone. It's been replaced by two different powertrains. The base powertrain will be Toyota's new 2.4-liter turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder, part of their Dynamic Force engine family. That makes 278 horsepower, 317 pound-feet of torque. You guys should be familiar with that engine. The Tacoma also uses a variation of that motor. It has about 8 more horsepower and around 50-ish more pound-feet of torque compared to the old 4-liter V6. However, this model that I'm showing you here is an interesting new powertrain because this is the TRD Pro and it comes standard with the iForce Max version of this powertrain. So we have that same 2.4-liter turbo paired up with a 36 kilowatt electric motor that is sandwiched between the engine and the 8-speed automatic transmission. All of them now use an 8-speed. That's a big improvement versus the 5-speed in the previous generation. And Toyota says in this application here, it makes 326 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque. That is the most power ever that we've gotten from a 4Runner. So again, this is going to make this new truck a lot more usable when you guys are planning to go off-road or if you just want to just do some drag racing with the vehicle. Toyota says they're offer a choice between either two-wheel drive, a part-time four-wheel drive system, or full-time four-wheel drive. This TRD Pro that I'm showing you here will have a part-time four-wheel drive system with a locking center diff and a locking rear diff. We don't have final fuel economy figures just yet, but we do know the fuel economy of some other vehicles like that Land Cruiser over there. So I would estimate this will probably be in the low 20 mpg range whenever we get the final numbers. Toyota did say that they did improve the towing capacity of this model. This will tow a maximum of 6,000 pounds, which is about 1,000 pounds more than the previous generation. We don't know 0 to 60 performance yet. We don't know curb weight figures just yet, but I'd estimate this new one's probably going to come in a little bit heavier. The current 4Runner is around 4,400 to 4,700 pounds. With the battery pack, of course, which is a 1.87 kilowatt hour nickel metal hydride, I'd say this is probably going to be closer to 5,000 pounds. But let's go ahead and close up this hood. As you can see, it's held up with a prop rod and show you guys the rest of the exterior styling. First of all, the TRD Pro is kind of going to be like the Halo version. There's also a Trail Hunter trim that's new for the 4Runner. That's essentially what Toyota also showed off on the Tacoma. And there's also a new luxury-oriented Platinum trim. We won't have the Platinum trim to show you here, but let's go ahead and talk about the TRD Pro for now. As you can see, the front fascia takes a lot of styling cues from the new Tacoma, but it also has its slightly own identity. Toyota made a couple of changes here. You can see this TRD Pro has an upgraded full LED headlight where you have these dual projector style LEDs. You also have an LED daytime running light, LED turn signal. The grille here has the signature Heritage Toyota logo here where it spells out Toyota at the front. It also has some nice gloss black accents here with the hexagonal insert. I also like the way the front forward camera is nicely integrated over here. You also have the sensor here that houses the radar sensor for the adaptive cruise. This vehicle does come standard with Toyota's Safety Sense 3.0. So Toyota was able to switch the power steering to an electric power steering unit. So now it has all the modern driver assistance that you could want. You also have these Rigid Industries fog lights here, which are a nice, slim, low profile design. And then with the TRD Pro, you also get a slightly different front bumper. You have a nice little TRD skid plate, a bash plate underneath here. And Toyota says that this model has roughly 9.2 inches of ground clearance. So it's got an all-new suspension, double wishbone at the front, multi-link solid axle at the rear. Again, it's going to give you the off-road capability that you're looking for. And then with the TRD Pro as well, you also have this kind of hood scoop on the hood, although I believe that is actually not functional. I'll have to double check that. This is a very, very, very early first look, and Toyota didn't really give us too many specs, and we only have about 20 minutes with the vehicle, so bear with me here. Now, as I move around the side profile, you can see the overall shape of the 4Runner is still instantly recognizable, but it now rides on the TNGA-F architecture. That's the same platform as all these other vehicles that you're seeing out here. So Toyota, developed the chassis to be very scalable, where they can pull it in, they can push it out, make it larger. This vehicle here, however, is bigger versus the previous generation. Now, at 194.9 inches long, it's around 4 inches longer than the old 4Runner. It has a 112.2 inch long wheelbase. If those specs sound familiar, it's around the same wheelbase length as that new Land Cruiser behind it. However, the 4Runner is around an inch longer than the new Land Cruiser, which is interesting to me. However, the difference is in the height. The 4Runner's height is around 5 inches lower in the height versus the new Land Cruiser because of that more boxier shape. You can see the TRD Pro has some unique styling elements here. The fender flares are painted in a gloss black, which I really like. You also have these unique wheels on the TRD Pro. These are an 18-inch beadlock style, or at least it looks like it is. Matte black finish wheel on a 265/70 R18 tire. It's a Toyo Open Country all-terrain tire. The Trail Hunter trim will offer as much as like a 33-inch tall tire. And then the TRD Pro, of course, will have its own unique suspension setup. And like I said earlier, 9.2 inches of ground clearance, although they didn't mention if this model here and the Trail Hunter actually has a little bit more space, or a little bit more of a lifted suspension. You can see the rock rails over here. Those are for the running boards, which again, they're going to give you more of a look that's a little bit more like rugged look versus like a traditional running board. You also have black painted elements here for the door handles, for the side mirrors, over here with an integrated turn signal, along with a nice camera mounted over here. Above me here on the roof, which I'm very short, so you can see there's no panoramic sunroof. I don't really think that Toyota is going to offer a pano sunroof on the 4Runner, which is a little bit of a disappointment. You can see it's got still the traditional roof rails where you can actually put stuff on the roof. And then coming over here to the rear, you can see Toyota did a couple of changes here with the rear glass on this third row. You can see it kind of goes up a little bit higher, which I imagine improves the visibility back there, which is good because the 4Runner still offers a third row. That's right, if you want a third row, you can still get one in the 4Runner, but not in this TRD Pro trim level. So we'll see, we'll hop over to the limited trim and see if that model actually has the third row. You can see the rear area looks pretty instantly recognizable as a 4Runner. You can see the overall silhouette reminds me a lot of the 5th gen, but you can see you got updated lighting elements here. So you have full LED taillights, you have this new black area here that shows off Toyota. It used to say 4Runner back here. There's also a big TRD Pro badge back here, along with the badge there that's part of their new hybrid badging there, where it shows the iForce Max powertrain. The TRD Pro comes standard with the hybrid powertrain. And then you can see there's a big full-size spare tire underneath here. And then here's the tow hitch. Remember, this vehicle will tow a maximum of 6,000 pounds. Now that window, it does still roll down. That's a big feature that a lot of owners and enthusiasts love about the 4Runner. Toyota said it's not going away, so it's great to see that that feature is still here. And then in terms of the cargo area that you're probably noticing, for the first time ever, you can get a power liftgate on a 4Runner. That's right, you could never get that before on the previous generation, so it's great to see that feature. Now this is a very early drive, or very early first look, so I don't have final cargo figures just yet. You can see there is like some storage here on the side to show that you can get a third row in this vehicle, where there's cup holders, a little bit more storage. You can also see over here, there's some underfloor storage here, because this is essentially where the third row would live. And then you can see this comes out. The battery pack, the 1.87 kilowatt hour battery pack actually lives underneath the floor here, which is why it's slightly raised. If I was going to guess the cargo, the old 4Runner had around 47 cubic feet, expanded out to around 89. I'd say with the new battery pack that's raising the floor, you're probably looking at around 40 cubic feet, maybe expanding out to around 80. It's still very usable, but remember, if you guys want a 4Runner with the biggest amount of cargo space, you might want to consider the non-hybrid option, which is available on the lower trims, but not on the upper trim like this TRD Pro. So I wanted to show you quickly what the interior of the TRD Pro looks like. You can see this particular one in here has kind of like a Softex leather material, where it's a faux leather. The seats are also heated and ventilated, and they also have more aggressive bolstering, which I love with the contrast red stitching. Toyota will, I believe, offer a red interior option as well. By the way, this exterior color is called Mud Bath. So it's a really interesting name for a color, but it's also a new color for 2024. And then just quick glance at this interior. We're going to show you the inside of the Trail Hunter and Limited more, but you can see with the TRD Pro, you have the TRD badging over here, you have that red stripe there at the top of the wheel, and then you have the standard big display. So you have a 12.3-inch display here, and then a 14-inch display over here that houses wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So previously, the old 4Runner had maxed out at an 8-inch display, so it's nice to see that Toyota has really stepped up their game here in technology and overall build quality and feel. This thing just feels like it was built to basically go off-road and take you almost anywhere you want to go. So in addition to the TRD Pro, Toyota also was willing to show us the Trail Hunter trim, which is new for 2025, and a limited trim. First off, let me show you guys the Trail Hunter. If you guys really like this color, it's also a new addition for 2025. It's called Everest. I don't know if it's exclusive to the Trail Hunter, but you can see, let's talk about some of the styling differences. Unlike the TRD Pro, which had like a gloss black here for the fender flares, these are unpainted, which I think is going to be good for those of you who plan to do some overlanding. You also get a slightly different wheel and tire package. It's an 18-inch wheel with kind of like a bronze finish to it. You also have a 33-inch tall Toyo open country all-terrain tire. Unlike the TRD Pro, which had a different shock, this one also has a different suspension setup as well. So it's an ARB Old Man EU suspension setup. We don't know yet what the differences in the ground clearance are between this model and the TRD Pro, or like a limited trim, for example, but you can see this model definitely has more of an overlanding theme, kind of going with the same kind of philosophy that Toyota showed with the Tacoma. You can see instead of a gloss black for the door handles, it's also a flat black, same thing with the mirror controls. And then the Trail Hunter also has kind of like a factory snorkel system, which I think also looks pretty nice. Overall, what do you guys think of the styling elements of this Trail Hunter? I think it actually looks good in this color. The interior, I also want to briefly show you as well. You can see this particular one has a wonderful color combination with the kind of gray inside with the soft text. You can see it has some contrasting orange stitching along the seats, along the dashboard as well. You still have, again, the 14-inch display over there with the fully digital 12-inch display. We'll show you more of the interior on the limited trim, but the iForce Max engine is going to come standard on the Trail Hunter trim as well, which again, this and the TRD Pro and the Platinum is going to come standard with the hybrid powertrain. Now, in contrast, here's the limited trim. This is painted in Heritage Blue. You guys have seen this color before. It looks fantastic on the new 4Runner. You can see the front fascia has a slightly different theme here with the chrome inserted in the actual grille. You still get those full LED headlight designs with the LED fog lights down here, although it's a slightly different look versus the rigid industries that we saw on the TRD Pro. You can see there's a front, it looks like a fuel economy thing there. It's like an air dam. That should be removable. It's kind of the same thing that we saw on the Tacoma as well. That's going to lower your ground clearance, but it's also going to improve the fuel efficiency. This model that I'm showing you here is not a hybrid. So the limited trim comes standard with the 2.4 liter turbo non-hybrid powertrain. The hybrid is going to be optional on this trim, but like I said, standard on the Trail Hunter, TRD Pro, and the new Platinum grade. You can see, looking at the side profile, the limited, the fender flares here are body colored, which I think goes well with the kind of luxury theme of this trim level. And you can see these are the 20-inch wheels that come on the limited trim, wrapped in a 265 by 55 series R20 tire. This is a Yokohama Geolander. This is more of like a street road going tire. And again, this model, even this model should have around 9.2 inches of ground clearance. The mirrors, you can see, and the door handles are body colored. You have some silver accents here for the roof rails, which is nice. And then above me over there, you can see there is no sunroof or panoramic sunroof. It just has a standard sunroof. So this is where I was hoping Toyota would offer a panoramic roof, but I don't think they will be. And then looking at the back, you can see the taillight design is also pretty similar to the TRD Pro that we showed you, but you can see instead of the Heritage script, it just spells Toyota back here, and then it says 4Runner as opposed to the TRD Pro badging. No four-wheel drive or like iForce Max badge here that has their new Beyond Zero badge, because remember, this is just a gas-only vehicle. You can see these buttons allow you to open and close that rear window. It does slide down, which is a nice touch. And then this model here, because it's not the hybrid, I wanted to show you guys the cargo area. You can see the TRD Pro had that kind of raised section because that's where the 1.787 kilowatt-hour battery pack lived. Without it, you can see now you have a little bit more space. The floor is a lot lower. You can see this model is going to offer a third row as well, although you can see this doesn't have it, but it does have some of the storage, just like in the TRD Pro, where you can fit a third row. I'd probably say this is around 40 to 45 cubic feet of space, maybe increasing it a little bit to around 90 or 85 cubic feet of space with the seats folded down. Underneath here, you can see Toyota still gives you a spare tire, although it's not a full-size variety like what you're going to find on the more off-road oriented models. And in case you guys are wondering, these buttons do actually roll the window up and down. You just seriously just push and hold this and the window will roll down. This is a feature that a lot of owners really appreciate. And if you want to close the window, you can do the same thing by pushing the up arrow button. And you can see it gives you quick access to the area, the trunk area, without having to actually open up the tailgate. Oh wow, Rob, are you okay?
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. So let's move on to the interior of this limited 4Runner. We're going to talk about this primarily because this is going to have all the features that you want. First thing I noticed when I opened the door, the power deploying running boards actually popped out to allow me to have easier access into the truck. That is exclusive, I believe, to the limited and most likely the platinum grade trims. But let's go ahead and get inside here and talk about this interior, because we already had a chance to briefly show you the interior of the TRD Pro and the Trail Hunter trim, but this limited trim is definitely more of the luxury oriented model. I especially love the way these brown seats look with the heritage blue. You can see Toyota has gone with more of a sportier TRD style seat. Even though this is not a TRD Sport or TRD Off-Road, these seats are also heated and ventilated. The driver's seat adjusts in 10 different ways, 8 different ways for the passenger side, and you also have 2-person memory, which is nice. And then if you guys look at the rest of the dash and door panels, first of all, the door panel here has a nice leather stitched area here on this upper portion, which I love. This model that I'm showing you is a very early pre-production model, but it still has some pretty nice materials here and here where you rest your elbows. You can see there are power mirrors as well, where you can electrically fold the mirrors in, and you also have one touch for the front and one touch for the rear. So one touch for all 4, which is a nice touch. The rest of the dash you can see is pretty identical to the new Tacoma. So if you guys like the Tacoma's interior, this is going to be pretty similar because remember, the two vehicles share the same architecture. You can see you have the new steering wheel from the Tacoma and from the Tundra. The Limited includes a power tilt telescoping adjustment, which is a nice touch. You also get heated and ventilated seats and a heated steering wheel, which is all controlled via hard buttons. The upper trims are going to have a fully digital 12.3-inch cluster. If you guys go for like an SR5 or like a TRD Sport, you'll have just a 7-inch cluster, and then you also have either an 8-inch display, which has their new Toyota Audio Multimedia interface, or the top trims, the upper trims will have this massive 14-inch display. So you guys have seen me show you this display before. It's also in the Tacoma and the Tundra. It has wireless over-the-air updates, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. This is a really early pre-production car, so I'm not going to be able to go and pair my phone and show you guys all the different features and whatnot. But if you put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your full top-down 360 camera that gives you more off-road views. You can also look around the truck, look behind the truck as well, kind of do like a perimeter scan. The quality and resolution is just a huge improvement. In fact, the screen size goes from, again, 8 inches before to now a max of 14. So that's really going to impress a lot of people who are looking for the greatest tech. This also has technically a bigger screen than the Land Cruiser. The Land Cruiser maxes out at 12.3, but you can get a bigger screen in the 4Runner, which just doesn't make sense to me. In terms of the materials, you can see the upper portion of the dash is a hard touch injection molded plastic, but it has a nice graining material. You have that pop-out JBL speaker that you also can get in the Tacoma. This is part of the upgraded sound system. I also like this kind of textured plastic look right here, which I think also breaks up the contrast of the interior. You have more of that leather along the glove box. There's a little bit of storage area here. You can see, open that up. The glove box is actually pretty big. It's damped but not lined with felt. Down here in the center console area, you can see you have dual zone climate control, lots of hard buttons and knobs, which I appreciate. You have a wireless phone charging pad here. You have 2 USB-C charging ports over here, which is nice. And then you have a traditional shifter that controls the 8-speed auto. A lot more buttons and controls here. This is to control the 4-wheel drive system. The Limited and the Platinum are the only ones that give you a full-time 4-wheel drive system versus a part-time. You get in other trims. There's also a drive mode selector here. And this whole center console area just reminds me a lot of the new Tacoma. You can see there's a nice center console area or lid. It provides a decent amount of storage over here. This is also a nice padded area, which is nice. Above me, you can see just a standard sunroof. I do wish Toyota offered a pano roof, but again, there's everything kind of to a price point. You can see you have a woven material here. You can open and close that sunshade manually. That opens up and tilts how you'd expect it to. No heads-up display, however. I was hoping to see a heads-up display, but I did read that it is on the Platinum trim. So if you want a heads-up display, you have to go for the Platinum. It's not available, I believe, on the Limited. But let's go ahead and hop into the back seat and show you guys what that is like really quick. Now again, I don't have final legroom figures just yet for this new 4Runner. The old one had around 33 inches of legroom. Clearly, I'm going to expect this new one's going to have more. Now, if you look at the legroom figures of something like the Lexus GX or the Land Cruiser, those have around 36 inches. So I'm imagining this is going to be pretty similar. You can see the seats, they do fold down, obviously. You can fold them down and then flip them forward. It's like this because if you need access to the third row, Toyota does it this way. Although, because of that, it doesn't provide like a completely flat load floor area, so it may not be as spacious as some car-based SUVs. But getting back here, you can see in terms of the roominess, as I shut the door, you can see material quality is pretty much the same back here, which is nice. You have padded area over here. You have still the one touch for the windows. There's a cup holder back here. And then in terms of the space, this is not where I'd have the seat to drive, but for somebody my height at 5'7", it's not bad. I'd say around 35, 36 inches of legroom. You can see good foot space. There is a slight hump here for the middle passenger. You have rear seat air vents here. 2 USB-C charging ports, a power outlet, no heated back seats, although perhaps the Platinum grade will include that. There's also storage cubbies here. In terms of the headroom space, you can see the sunroof does eat into the space, but it kind of carves back out over here. The Land Cruiser should offer more headroom because of the increase in height by about 5 inches, and you can see there's an armrest here that folds down, gives you 2 cup holders. So compared to the old 4Runner, this definitely feels like an improvement, but if you're expecting like huge amounts of rear seat legroom, you're gonna wanna check out like a unibody crossover or take a look at the Land Cruiser or the GX. Those, I believe, have a little bit more legroom space. So even though the current 5th generation 4Runner has been on the market for about 15 years, it has been an extremely strong seller for Toyota, with the company selling between 120 to around 140,000 units here in the US every year. So clearly the company had to get the new 4Runner right, and after finally seeing the all-new 6th generation in person, I have to say I am very impressed. From the 9 trim levels that Toyota offers on this vehicle, from the Trail Hunter to the TRD Pro to this luxury-oriented limited trim, Toyota has essentially created a 4Runner for everybody. Now, while I didn't get a chance to see all the trims of the vehicle, I'm expecting to be able to drive this car sometime in September because they will be going on sale sometime in the fall of this year. Now, in terms of the powertrain, some of you may be a little sad to see the 4-liter V6 go away. However, I'd argue that the base 2.4-liter turbo and the Hybrid Max option are going to be, worthy replacements for that old V6. It's going to get significantly better fuel efficiency. It also makes it the most powerful 4Runner ever. And the interior finally has a modern amount of technology. I love the big 14-inch display, which is funny because it's bigger versus the display you get in the Land Cruiser. The styling of the new 4Runner certainly is more evolutionary. I mean, we have some elements here from the new Tacoma and the front fascia, while the rear of the truck pretty much just looks like an evolution of the current 5th generation model. And really, where I'm going to be, wondering what Toyota is going to be placing this vehicle in the lineup, because the 4Runner, we actually was, a little confused about where its positioning is going to be, because with the return of the Land Cruiser is going to start at around $55,950. Some of you were wondering, where does that leave the 4Runner? Now, we don't have obviously final pricing yet of this all-new 6th generation model. The current 4Runner starts at around $40,000 and goes up to around $55,000. I would estimate that this new model is going to be more expensive, so I'd say maybe $43,000 for the base SR5, while that TRD Pro or the Trail Hunter behind me, that's probably going to go to around $60,000, which would really give the 4Runner a nice place in the Toyota lineup. And it also, for me, is going to be interesting when the two vehicles do go on sale. I'm talking about the Land Cruiser because, the Land Cruiser is kind of going to be a step above, even though the 4Runner is about the same size. However, this is going to be a less expensive vehicle. Because Toyota is going to offer a third row, it should make it, again, appeal to a little bit more families. And again, it's also going to still have the off-road capability, the dependability, the reliability, and the quality that people just expect with the 4Runner name. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my very detailed overview on the fully redesigned 2025 Toyota 4Runner. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.